In this tutorial, we're going to take a tour of Excel's user interface to ensure that you're comfortable with navigating in Excel. Excel's user interface is broken down into four main components: the ribbon, the formula bar, the quick access toolbar, and the active worksheet. Let's go ahead and jump over to Excel and talk about these components in detail. The ribbon is used to access features of Excel. It is broken down into tabs, as you can see across the top here, that are based on thematic groupings. Basically, each of the tabs provide the user-related functionality. For example, if we click on the Page Layout tab, you'll see that there are a few sections here. One for the page setup, one that has to do with scaling to fit, and one that has to do with sheet options. Each of these groupings provides commands that control the way the spreadsheet looks and is printed, or commands that are related to the layout of the worksheet, and that's why they're grouped into the Page Layout tab. Some of these groupings contain access to even more options via a dialog box. You can access the dialog box by clicking the drop-down arrow that you see in the corner. So if we click on the Page Setup drop-down box, we'll see that an actual dialog box will pop up and we'll have additional options that we can access. For those of you that are familiar with prior versions of Excel, the ribbon takes a more visual approach and replaces the menus in those versions. Also, the dialog box is similar to the view that was available when you selected a menu option. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at a few of the tabs and get some practice using the ribbon and its commands. Why don't we start with the Home tab? On the Home tab, let's say we had some text here that just said, my name, Jared Tanton. And if we wanted to format this, we could actually change the font. Here, we could make it bold, maybe we could make it a little larger, maybe change the background or the feel of the cell, and let's change the color as well. Now, you can see from the Home tab, we're able to do some of the very common things, like manipulate the font, maybe the actual alignment of the content, the format or style of what's typed in there, some very common commands that are there. If we jump over to another tab, say maybe the Page Layout tab, we can control things like our actual setup. So maybe we want to change our page setup to be landscape when we print it, or we want to change our margins, or things along those lines. We'd be able to do that from the actual Page Setup tab. Lastly, it's worth mentioning that your ribbon might look slightly different than mine. This is because the ribbon can be customized to show different tabs. This is a frequent question that comes up in the workplace, so let's go ahead and look at how this is done briefly. If we right-click anywhere in the ribbon, we'll get an option down here that says Customize the ribbon. When we select that, you can see there's a list over here that says these are the main tabs. So the Home, the Insert, the Page Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, and so on. If a tab isn't checked here, such as the Developer tab in yours is probably not checked, then it won't show up on the ribbon. If it is checked, then it will show up. So we'll go ahead and remove the Developer tab here, and when we come back, we'll see that the Developer tab has been removed. Now I'm going to go ahead and add that back real quick. So we would go to the Customize the ribbon, and we would check on the Developer tab, and we could say OK. So often in the workplace, people get a little confused because they might think that their Excel doesn't have access to certain commands that maybe one of their colleagues do. However, that can typically be solved by customizing the toolbar. Now, while we're on that same thread, another thing that happens very frequently is that the ribbon tends to disappear after people move their mouse away from it. This is because of the little drop-down arrow. This little caret here actually lets you minimize the ribbon and lets you toggle it. So now my ribbon is out of the way so that I have more real estate of my worksheet, and if I click on an option, it'll kind of pop up, but the second I click back on the worksheet, it goes away. You can toggle between this mode and the other mode by clicking the little caret here. So now it's back, and if I were to remove it again, it would go away. I personally like the ribbon being there at all times, so I'm going to go ahead and move it back. In our next tutorial, we are going to discuss the Quick Access toolbar. In the meantime, you should spend a few minutes getting familiar with the different tabs on the ribbon. Also, you should practice adding and removing a tab like we did with the Developer tab. It is inevitable that this will come up in practice. I'll let you have a go at it, and I'll see you in the next lesson.